Hi all and welcome to my channel. It's Caz here of Crafty Caz, and today it's all about yellow and black. For this project I'm using Stylecraft Squeeze Me yarn. It's a double knit fuzzy yarn and hopefully it'll go through the machine fine. I've not tried it yet. Bought from my local craft shop, Kutch and Cushions. I'm going to be using the Squeeze Me yarn sparingly, and I'm going to be using this Aran yellow yarn for the liner of this project. Also going to need some pink DK yarn and black DK yarn for the facial features. And for the wings, I'm going to be using this James C. Brett Twinkle Fashion DK in a lovely sparkly white. For this project, you're going to need a 46 or 48 pin circular knitting machine and a 22 pin circular knitting machine. An I-cord maker will be handy, but it's not essential for this project. A scissors, a tapestry needle, some 18mm safety eyes and some bendy fuzzy wire. And some fabric clips will be handy. So to start our project, I'm going to cast on with my liner colour, and I'm going to do one row after cast on, because this fuzzy yarn that we're going to be using for the main body can be a little bit temperamental when we want to cinch nice and tightly. So for safety reasons I'm going to be doing a plain row. So zero my clock and just one plain row, in order that we can cinch safely before we move on to using our main yarn. So I'm just going to pop my tail in there like that and swap over to my main yarn. So this is the Stylecraft Squeeze Me yarn, double knit, so it should go through the machine with no issues. So let's carry on and do our main body of our Roly Poly Bumblebee. So here we go, we're on row 3 of the knit. And we're going to start with 25 rows. So just carry on now in your yellow and do 25 rows, whether you're doing it in a fuzzy kind of textured yarn or whether you're using a plain Aran weight yarn. That's up to you. It's going to be 25 rows regardless. And on a plus point, this Stylecraft Squeeze Me yarn is going through beautifully well. I'll see you now at the end of 25 rows. And I'm just coming up to finishing my row 25. There we are, that's 25 rows done. I'm going to snip my yarn and move over to the Squeeze Me in black for the next stage. And what we're going to be doing for our bee is alternating obviously between black and yellow. So now we're on row 25 starting row 26. For the next 5 rows we're going to do 5 rows of the black. So I like to knit forward 3 or 4 needles and then tie together so I don't forget. So crank now until we get to row 30 in the black. This is going through the machine quite well. There is a little bit of resistance, not too much in order to worry me, but it's looking really nice so far, quite rich. So 29 and 30 already. So swap back to the yellow and we're going to do another 5 rows again in the yellow. And that's what we're going to do now for the next few rows, is alternate between yellow and black at 5 rows at a time. So push that through there like that, tie it off. And now crank until you get to row 35. And it's quite quick to do once you're nipping through these rows at 5 at a time. There we go, we're at row 35 already. Swap back to the black now. So continue with this 5 rows of yellow and 5 rows of black. Grab the right tails. So I'm going to do another 5 rows now in black, which will take me up to row 40. And I'm going to be doing that 5 rows of yellow, 5 rows of black until I get to row 65, and then we'll change back to the black. So I'll see you back now when I get back to row 65, and we'll finish the first half of this 160 row bumblebee project. Just loosening some yarn and making my way up to row 40, and I'll see you very, very soon. So here we are at row 65. I'm going to snip my yellow off, I'm going to transfer back to the black, and I'm going to knit now to row 80 with the black yarn here. So again, change over, and I'll put all the pattern row counts at the end, and if I get a chance I'll even write a pattern up and pop it in my Etsy shop just for a few pounds. If you want to have a written pattern, then by all means you can pop in there and buy one. I'm not sure when I'll have the time to do that, but I will put it on my long list of things to do. Hopefully get that to you pretty quickly as well. So crank now until you get to row 80, and I'll see you there. I'm coming up to row 79 now. There's only 1 row to go to finish to get to row 80, and there we are. And to do the liner of this project, I'm going to swap over to this Aran similar colour to the yellow there. Drop that to the floor, and I'm going to change over to this colour here to be economical with this yarn and to get more projects out of it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to crank with this yellow all the way to row 160. So once you've done the same, I will see you at the end for casting off. And as you can see, the machine is a little smoother with the Aran yarn than it was with the squeezable yarn from Stylecraft, but it still went through okay for me. I'll see you now at row 160. Just coming up to the end of row 159 and onto row 160. There we go. And now I'm going to trim about 12 to 18 inches of my yarn, and we're going to cast off. I'm going to use my Addi needle here. So yarn out of the yarn feeder, and we're just going to cast off as normal. And I do 1 stitch at a time for the first 3 or 4, and then grab a few more as I'm working around the bed of the machine. And there's our last stitch, and our work is off the machine. So now we'll move on with this project. Moving on to the wings, we're going to use our 22 pin machine, and I'm using this Twinkle Fashion DK, which has got a lovely little shimmer to it. And for the wings on your 22 pin circular knitting machine, you need to knit 2 lots of 20 rows and 2 lots of 30 rows, because we're going to be adding a double up wing effect on our bumblebee for this particular project, something that I've not seen before, and something I'm hoping is going to work out really well. And that's our 20 rows done, and cast off. And if you get that, just reverse your machine a little bit, and then you can get that loop. You'll also need to knit a length of I-cord, approximately 2.5 centimeters loose, 2.5 centimeters loose there, okay, and then you can see that the wire is in the center, 30 centimeters. So to knit the stinger for our bumblebee, we're going to be using this lovely black fuzzy yarn again, this Squeeze Me by Style Craft, and we're going to cast on all the way around the bed of the machine, and we're going to be doing 50 rows in total for the stinger, or the tail end of our bumblebee. And I'm going to be splitting mine 30 rows and 20 rows to be a little bit more frugal with this fuzzy yarn. So I'll see you at the end now. So I'm going to do 30 in the fuzzy yarn and 20 in a black DK yarn. So I'll see you for casting off. And there's our work off the machine. Don't forget to tie together your colour joins. So moving on to assembling our bumblebee, don't forget we've got lots and lots of stripes here. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to tie our colour joins together. So a nice little tight colour join there like that. Boop. And then you can either leave them or snip them off, it's entirely up to you, because they're going to be included in the stuffing anyway. Watch this yarn, it's not the strongest, because there's a very thin string in the centre, and then that's surrounded by the fuzz, of course. So tie all your colour joins together as tightly as you can without breaking it. And if you remember, I cast on with the Aran weight yarn here, so I also need to secure that colour join as well. So tie those two together like that. Just make sure that that cinches. Yes, it does indeed, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to tie those two together. I'll leave it slightly loose just in case I've made an error, in which case then I can unpick it. So then we can stretch our work out. And I have to say, this yarn is lovely, I have to say. Oh, look at that stretch, look at that. Oh, so satisfying. So there's our bee, Fuzzy Wuzzy Buzzy Buzzy bee. And there's the line. I opted to use the Aran yarn, as I said, because it saves on the more pricey yarn. There we go, we're going to stretch all that out. And exactly like making a beanie, we are going to put the one end inside the other, like that. And we're going to cinch the one end up. Hence using this Aran yarn here so that we've got a stronger cinch, because this yarn here is extremely fragile, and I'll show you there, you've only got one little pull and it breaks. So don't use that as your pull cord. You might end up in a little bit of trouble, so you'll have to cast on with a matching yarn as close as you can. And that's what we've done here. Put that tail in there. So we're going to cinch the outer, cinch the inner. Find our tails, line up our tails. Actually, I meant to say that to you. You need to line up your tails first so that your work doesn't twist, okay? Same when you're making a beanie, exactly the same. Line up your tails and keep all of your work lines straight and neat and tidy. So inner one first, and I often put my finger in the centre there like that. Cinch to my finger, and then I'm on the right lines, and then cinch it tight like that. Okay. So we can cinch that side as well. Push that in there like that. And then cinch this closed. And I'm hoping, because I cast on and I did one row, I'm hoping that we're not going to see it too much. I think I should have just cast on with the one row before changing, but that looks all right. By the time I cinch it now and tie it all together, it should be fine. So I'm going to trim my tails a little shorter because they're way too long. But I'm going to keep that length of yarn for something later. It may very well come in handy a little later on. So let's cinch this together now, as tightly as we can. Nice double knot, like that. And we're going to smooth out our gathers here as much as we possibly can in order to make that face of our bumblebee nice and smooth, and we can do that when we're stuffing it as well. So we're going to move on now to adding the eyes and stuffing our bumblebee. Now I've moved the colour join of my work to the centre, okay, and I'm going to be using that as the bottom end of my bumblebee. So that's what I've done here, and we're going to now add the eyes. And I've got some 18mm safety eyes here, but I'm going to be using a little bit of felt as a backing just to make doubly sure that everything is safe. And I've cut a piece of felt approximately 4 centimeters by 3, but 3 by 3 will be absolutely fine. And I like to fold it into quarters and then snip a little bit there like that, and then you'll end up with a little hole that you can put the stem of the eye through. So into quarters and snip that off like that, and then you'll have a little hole. Oh, that's even a little bigger hole, even better. We're going to place our eyes about 3 centimeters up from the cinch area there, and approximately 4 to 5 centimeters apart, bearing in mind that this is going to stretch out the minute that we add some stuffing. So let's place one eye in first, and then we can position the other one. So let's do 3 centimeters there like that. Put my hand in behind, push that eye through, right through the other side. There we go, and that one's in. Like that. Now what I did before for the Roly Poly Pussycat and the Roly Poly Piggy is I used this ball of yarn in order to stuff out the face temporarily to give me an idea where the eyes are going to go. And like I said, I've not done this before. This is straight out of my head and into some yarn. So using the ball of stuffing like that is going to help immensely. I'm making sure that I got my colour join on the bottom there like that. That's great, because this yarn is really quite stretchy. Right, so there's our, let me stuff that ball down there a little bit more to make it look like I've stuffed the bee out totally. There we are, there's our bee's face. So we're going to put it there like that. That's what I think. If you want to put your bee's eyes in a completely different place, of course you can do that as well. And you can see a little bit of my cast on and one row of yarn there. So I suggest that when you cast on, just cast on with one row of your corresponding Aran yarn, okay, and then continue with your rows of yellow. I did one row after my cast on row, and I shouldn't have done that, okay, but I'll put a few little stitches in there to hide that. So we are approximately 3.5 centimeters up at a 45 degree. Okay, 3.5, maybe that one's 4. Yeah, 3.5 to 4 up should be fine. And center to center we are 5 centimeters apart. Okay, so I'm going to go with that and hope that when we stuff it then it looks fine and dandy. So I'm going to take that ball of stuffing out now. Keep those eyes there. Make sure that eye is pushed through to the rear. Like that, so the 2 stalks are sticking out of the back of the work like that. I'm going to add my little piece of felt there and my backer. I'm just going to squeeze that on like that till it goes clickety click, and that's done and dusted. And the same the other side. Hold it with my thumb, add my felt backing just to give it a little bit of extra support so it doesn't pop through those stitches, and I need to make that hole just a tad bigger. There we go, that should do it fine. That's just my little security blanket, because obviously if you're going to be using these safety eyes, then be mindful of the age group. If giving it to young people, not always suitable for young people, okay? And primarily this is an ornament, all right, or something that you can keep. So there's our eyes done on our little face, and we just need to stuff it now. Okay, before we stuff it, we're going to add a nice little drawstring on the edge of our black yarn at the bottom there, and I'm going to be using a black DK for mine. I'm not going to rely on the fuzzy yarn because, as I've already said, it's a little on the sensitive side. So I've got some black DK that we'll be using for the facial details later as well. So pop a long length on a darning needle, and let's even that up there, and we're going to put it right on the join between the yellow and the black. It's difficult to see the stitches, so I'm just going to eyeball it. If you can see the stitches better than I can, then fine. Leave a tail and work your way all the way around. All the way back to the beginning, and then we are ready to stuff our bumblebee. So grab your stuffing and let's get plumping this little bumblebee out. Before we stuff our bumblebee, a step I nearly forgot, we need to add our little antennae, if we're doing antennae, okay? Now I am. If you're not, then you can just go ahead and stuff your bumblebee to your liking. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to close off the end of my eye cord. I'm just going to grab my glasses because I can't see otherwise. And all you do to cast off your eye cord to seal it up is just to grab each stitch as you go around like that. That's two. I think I've missed one. Never mind, I'll just grab him in a moment because we're going to be cinching this up anyway. So go around in a circle normally, that's what I would say. But I made a real pig's ear of that, but in the end it looks okay. Alright. So what we're going to do now, hopefully anyway, is to thread our antennae above the head, and I'm opting to do it just above the eye, and hopefully it's going to work out okay. That's my plan. I want to loop it from the inside like that. So let's have a look, see if it'll go through. It may not go through even. I'm hoping it will. That was the plan when I did it anyway. So let's find the end of our eye cord here, and the hope was that I'd be able to thread it through in its entirety without scagging the yellow. Oh, look at that, it's working, it's working. So it's coming through the two layers, and we're going to do the same with the other side. And the reason for this is a safety reason, because if it's looped inside the head of the bumblebee, you don't have to glue it. It's not going to come out, or it shouldn't. That's the plan. So let's try and do it as equally as we can. I think that's about right. And then we are going to pull our eye cord through there like that. Now then, that's absolutely perfect. I am happy with that. If you want yours further apart, then of course put them further apart. I'm just winging this one, like I said. This is an idea in my head that I'm hoping is going to work out at the same time. So now we are going to stuff our bumblebee, because trying to thread that through with the stuffing in would be quite difficult. So that's what we're going to do now. So grab your stuffing, because in all honesty I stuffed it once and then I realised, oh, crikey, I missed a step out. It's all written down in my book, I've just not done one yet. So making sure that your draw cord is outside. Let's stuff this little bumblebee. I won't bore you now with stuffing this all on camera. Suffice to say that you need to even out the end of your bee there and smooth out as many of those gathers and wrinkles as you can. And the other thing, if you can, if I turn this inside out, again this is prototype, put a little bit of stuffing in between the wire, okay, and the head. So wrap that stuffing around there like that so that the I-cord is sitting looped inside, okay, with some stuffing on top of it. And then that'll hold it down as well and make it stick up. See it's sticking up like, whoa. We can alter it later. I'm sure there's movement in that. So that's the plan. I love doing these makes and videoing them at the same time, because honestly I'm learning at the same time as well. Genuinely have not made one of these before. There we are. So I'm pushing that now on top of the loop. Okay, so I've looped it down about 2 inches inside the head there. Okay, and I'm stuffing my bee. There we go. And I'm going to stuff the face out, push those wrinkles out as much as I can, and then stuff the rest of my bee, and I'll be back. Isn't that cute so far? I'll be back very shortly, and we'll tie off the back end with that draw cord we've already fitted. So carry on stuffing, and I'll see you in a bit. Once you've finished stuffing your bumblebee, as I have here, mine is nicely stuffed and nice and plump, all you need to do is to pull your drawstrings together and cinch it nice and tightly. Now if you're going to be doing the stinger section that we knitted on the 22 pin earlier, don't worry about closing that hole up too much, because the stinger will be sitting in this rear end area here. But if you're not going to be doing that part, then cinch that until it's completely closed, and you can close a little hole if you have one left once you've cinched with a few stitches and knots. Okay, so I'm going to close mine now. I'm not going to put mine too tightly. I'm not going to worry about the hole because I'm going to be adding the stinger on the end. So that's all you need to do now, and bury your tails, and this part is done, and we'll move on to doing the next stage. And I have to say that my little bumblebee right now is quite plump. So there you go. I'm not going to worry about that hole. I'm going to leave that hole because I'll be covering it soon. I'll just need to bury my tails, and I'll do that now shortly off camera, not to bore you. And there's our little bee so far, looking very cute. So let's move on to finishing off the antennae for our little bumblebee here. And I've got a long tail. I don't need that. I'm going to trim that off a little bit. Now then, as you know, we've left 2.5 centimeters of I-cord at the end of the wired section. Okay, and what we're going to do is pop our tail on a darning needle, ready, and we are going to twirl this section down like that. So we're going to fold it in, okay, keeping that tail out of the way, and fold it down like a Swiss roll, like that. Fold it down, fold it down, fold it down till you meet the wire section, and then stop. It'll naturally come to a stop. Make sure that you've got it lined up with the front of your bee's face there, like that. And all we're going to do then is we're going to add a few stitches through there like that to hold it in place. You can stitch as you go, or just do a few stitches like I'm going to here. I'm going to make my stitches as small as possible so I can hold these sections. As you can see, I pushed the needle through all the layers there and all the little twirls in order to hold that in place. And then we'll do exactly the same on the opposite side, and that's how we're going to finish off the little antennae curls. And I really like it, but by all means you don't have to do the antennae curls at all. You can leave that bit off if you prefer to do your bumblebee without. So I'm just going to pass through a few times with a few stitches, not to distort the shape at all, but just to make sure that all these layers are tacked together. Could use a little bit of hot glue if you wanted to, but I'm not the tie just with hot glue, so I'm going to stay away from it and just use a few stitches here like that, through there like that. I'm going to end up with mine there, and I'm going to pop one through that leg there to pull that in, back through until I'm happy with the way it sits. So you work on yours until you're happy with the way it sits, and then you can tie off with a knot. And I'm kind of happy with the way that is sitting there like that. So you can see that little antenna's got a little bobble on the top there like that. So I'm just going to feed my tail down the length like that, bring it out somewhere down there, and I will just trim that off then. And just do the same now with the other side. Okay, and that's the little bee antennae done. I just need to do my other one on the opposite side. Then we'll move on to doing the stinger for the rear of the bee. So moving on to preparing the stinger now after we've knitted it, okay? And as you can see, I used a different yarn for the liner of mine. So make sure when you turn yours inside out, as if you're going to make a beanie, that this part of the yarn is on the outside, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to use some of these clips in order to clip our work together. So go to the cast on and the cast off edge and bring them together, making sure that you match your tails together so that everything stays nicely lined up. If I can find my tail, which has disappeared. I think it's straight anyway, so let's just go with what we've got for now. So put a few clips all the way around your work so that nothing shifts. On this fuzzy yarn, this Squeeze Me yarn by Stylecraft, does stretch a little bit, so you may have to twiddle a little bit to get everything to line up. But when you've done that, make sure everything's lined up because we want everything to be nice and square. Yeah, I got a little bit of a bag there, but if I stretch it, it'll be fine. Okay. Now we're going to use that as the top of our work, okay? So I'm going to line mine up like that. Make sure that my sides are nicely pushed out so that everything is nice there like that. And I'm going to put another clip about 1 inch up on both sides like that. I'm just eyeballing it at the moment. And another little clip opposite there, about 1 inch up, and that will hold those two sides together. And what we're going to do is take a long length of black yarn on a darning needle, and I'm just using that DK that I've got to my side there. And what we are going to do is to stitch on the left side and the right side, and we're going to mark the center line. So my center is roughly there. You can do it with a ruler or a measuring tape if you want to be more accurate than I am here, but I'm just going to eyeball it, and we are going to stitch down to the top of that clip there and stitch down to the top of that clip there, because I don't want the stinger to have the little wrinkles in it that you get when you gather. But if you want to gather your piece, you can do, of course. There's no reason why you can't, but it's not the look I want for mine. So a couple of little stitches here now, just to hold that in place, and then I can remove that clip then. Just push that through there like that. And I'm just going to be using a back stitch. I don't think that caught there, so let's pull that through once more. Oops, my fingers are all fingers and thumbs today. Look, it didn't catch again. Crikey. Let's hold that in place this time then, and let's get this one done. Good grief. Right, let's do the knot. We've done the knot, hooray! Right, so what we're going to do is to stitch up. So I'm going to start down and up about just shy of 1 centimetre, I guess. And then where you went in there, where the stitch went in there, we're going to go back in there and about 1/2 centimetre in front of where our yarn is sitting. Like that, which ends up being the end of that stitch. If you can see the loop there, that's the end, and that's where we go in next time. Okay, so it's what I know as a back stitch, running stitch, back stitch. I think it's a back stitch it's called, all the way up. And when I get to my top of my triangle shape there, I'm going to double back and go over it again to make doubly sure that it's all fine and dandy and gives me a nice firm seam. And it won't take long to do. Okay, I'm not pulling too tightly, but I'm making sure that those stitches are nice and snug. Like that, back into that one, up to the top. Like that, back in right to the top of that pin is. Like that. I can remove that pin now because I don't need it. And when I get to the top like that, I'm going to put a little over stitch there to secure that in the center, like that. And then I'm going to stitch back down the way I came, following the same line of stitches. So do that. It's difficult to see black on black, but I am wearing my glasses, which does help with my tired old eyes these days. Try and stagger the stitches if you could see them, because again that helps. So bring the top of the stitch over the join of the previous stitch, if you possibly can. So I'll finish this off now and I'll work on the other side exactly the same. And then we'll be able to turn our work out and attach it to the bottom of our bee. There we are. So that was quickly to do. All done. I'll just do a little retaining knot there now, if my knots will work this time. There's my little knot. And I'll feed my tail up there a little bit. Not to worry about it too much, because this little fin shape that we've created there will be forming part of our stuffing. So that's one side done. So just repeat the process now, this side along there to the top of that, so we got an equal triangle shape to there. Once you've finished, you'll have a line of stitches up there and a line of stitches up there, okay? And what we're going to do now is just turn it inside out. Simple pimples. I've removed all the clips, and don't worry about the open end where you stitched across there, because you've got stitches, it's all sealed in anyway. There we go, and there's our little triangle. So we've got two little fins in there now that are going to form part of the stuffing, and I'm going to move one to one side and one fin to the other side to even it up a little bit, like that. And we're going to fit it now to the back end of our little bee. And as you can see, those little rivulets that you get with the purl side is really nice for this, because it reminds me of a beehive. So I think that's what I'm going for with this one here. So let's get the back end of our little bumblebee here, and there he is. I haven't worried too much about the hole because we are putting the stinger on. Like I said, if you're going to take the stinger off and not use the stinger idea, then make sure that you cinch that hole properly, okay? So with the seam left and right, okay? So the seam running left and right there, pick your best side. So left and right, I'm going to choose that and center it on the back end of your bee's bottom there, like that. Okay, and we're going to start stitching from the bottom. Excuse the pun. So spread it out until you're happy with where it's sitting, and we'll start stitching it into place, and then we can stuff it as we're going along. So I'm going to grab my yarn, pop that there for a second. So with a fresh length of yarn on your darning or tapestry needle, we're going to find the top of our bee. Make sure that it's running with your bee there, okay? And we're going to pop his little bum on, central to his little face, like that. Okay, and then we're going to start stitching in place. Now, by all means, pin it into place. Might be a very good idea to grab a few pins and pop them in like that. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do there, to make sure that I get everything as central as possible, and then we can start stitching it. And it's just mattress stitch all the way around. So leave a gap about 1 inch, 2 inches at the bottom there, so you can pop some stuffing in there before finishing off. So I'm going to start either side of my pin, like that. Just put a little securing knot in there. Hopefully my knot will work this time and not play around like it did last time. There we go, that's fine. And grab the slightly underneath your work there, and start mattress stitching around. And you can pull this work a little bit to stretch it out. And remember, I always say when you're stitching onto these soft makes to dig down a little bit with your needle first and grab some of that stuffing, alright? It's not 100% mattress stitch, if you know what I mean, because of that, I don't think, but I always get a reasonably good look. I think it's a really good look, but I don't want to be too big-headed. So down there, grab a little bit of stuffing with your mattress stitch and work your way all the way around until you get back to the other side of your bottom pin. So I'll do that quickly now. I'm just going underneath the edge corner of my work here like that. I'm working my way all the way around. I'm trying to make sure that my little stinger is sitting equidistant on this black row here, okay? So that's a good guide for you as well. Keep checking your work as you're working around to make sure that everything is sitting nice and where you want it to be. It saves unpicking later. There we are, I'm nearly back at the beginning there. I've got about a 2-inch gap at the bottom there, okay, and I've kept my work equidistant from the back edge of the join there, okay, as equal as I possibly can. So I'm going to grab some stuffing now, put my needle in the side there to hold it. Just grab some stuffing. Here's my stuffing. Not going to need too much. I can take that pin out of there, don't need that now. Pop some stuffing in there to pad this little stinger out, and then it starts taking a little bit more of a stingery shape. Now, like I said, you don't have to add the stinger. You can just close up the bumblebee and it'll be fine and dandy. But if you want that little bit of extra detail, then you can add the stinger. There we go. There's my stinger all stuffed, and as you can see, it's looking quite nice. So grab my needle now. I'm just going to finish my mattress stitch around. Grabbing slightly underneath there. Grabbing some stuffing on the main body. Pulling that mattress stitch in. Try not to grab that stuffing. And here we are, the last few stitches. And then we can call that part of our make done. Next we're going to move on to doing the wings. And we don't have much more to do for our beautiful bee then. There we are, the last stitch. One more stitch and then a little knot. And we can bury our tails. Great stuff. Fantastic. Job done. Stinger attached. he is now fully equipped with everything that he needs. And there's our little stinger on the back end of our bumblebee. And I love the little ripples. I think that adds a little bit more extra texture than the straight lines that are running through the bee. But you can fold it the other way if you like. Isn't that great? Whee! Wings time! Now for the wings, I've knitted 4. I'm going to try and put 4 wings on my bumblebee. So I've got 2 lots of 20 rows and 2 lots of 30 rows. So to prepare our wings, all we're going to do is to cinch both ends closed. This is the shorter of the wings, but you do the same for each of the wings that you do. So cinch them both together tightly, pushing it in like that, and then pop an end on a darning needle. And what we're going to do is to put a little knot in there, or a stitch and a knot. However you finish yours off will be absolutely fine. Okay, and then fold it upwards like that in half, and then fold the outer edges up like that. Okay, so you get a little bit of a raise in the center there. Once you've done that, put a few stitches to hold it. A couple of little shallow stitches like that. And hopefully this will add a little bit of dimension to the wings. And on the one side you can leave the tail, and on the other side we're going to feed that tail in and hide it, because we're not going to need it a tail on both sides. So the same there, cinch it together tightly, add a stitch and a knot, and then fold the middle up like that, fold it in half downwards, and then fold the upper bits up like that to meet it, so you'll have a little bit of a hot dog look. And a couple little stitches to hold that in place like that, back or forward or over the top, however you prefer to do it. There we are. We can add a little knot in there now to finish that off, and then feed our tails in, because we don't need 2 tails. And do the same now for each of your wings, and hopefully that little bit of detail will hold when we come to attach it to our bumblebee. That's the kind of effect I'm going for, just a little bit more of a textured look than a flat panel-y look. There we go. If you squash it down a little bit, we get that. So when we attach it to our bee, hopefully we'll get that kind of look. So do the same for all 4, and then we'll look at attaching them to our bee after we do one little change to our bee body. Next we're going to add a little bit of contouring to our bee in order for our wings to sit inside. So we're going to move to the bottom of this black stripe here and turn our little bee over. Okay, and I've got on my darning needle a double strand of DK yarn, but if you're using Aran, that 1 strand should be sufficient. And we are going to pop through a drawstring. Okay, so I'm going over 2 and under 2, and I go all the way around. I'm going to leave my little loop there like that, and so I don't pull my loop through, I'm going to use one of my little clips here on the end. These are very handy, and that should stop me from pulling through. And this line now, just follow this line over 2 and under 2 all the way around. And I was just going to fit the wings as they are, and then I thought, oh, if we contour it, then we can bury the wings a little bit in a bit of a cinched area, not too much, we're not going to cinch it in massively, all the way around back to where we started from. There we go, we're nearly back to the beginning, and there we are, we're done. So I take my clip off, and now we can cinch our little bee to give him a little bit of a bee-shaped body. So you cinch to your desired circumference. I will do mine, and then I will give you a measurement of what I think looks nice. There we can see that the bee neck and head is a little bit more defined, and hopefully we'll be able to pop the wings either in the crease or there. We'll see now as I come along. I quite like that, so I'm quite happy with that. So I can take my darning needle off there for a second so I can tie, and I'm going to trim it a little shorter because it's a little bit too much yarn. I'm happy with that, so I'm going to spin it a little bit, which is my way of locking it a little bit so I can tie that second knot, not having 15 fingers and 10 hands. There we go, that's tight. And I'll do another doubly knot like I do. Job done. Now then, all I need to do is to bury my tails, and I'm going to bury them in the black side of there so we don't see the black coming through on the yellow, and trim those off, and then I will measure to give you an idea of the circumference that I've gone for on mine. There we go, let's chop those off now, we don't need those. Job done. Excellent. So we've given our bee a little bit of a shape on this particular one, which I think is working really nicely. Put those little antennae up, they've gotten a bit flattened. So all we need to do now is to attach our wings. So let's grab our wings and do that. So what we are going to do with the wings is we're going to nestle one wing inside the other to add a little bit more dimension. Okay, so obviously the end with the string is the bit that's going to attach to the bee. And this wing here has obviously got the string attached, and what I want to do is to push this one slightly under the crook of that one there. Okay, so with this yarn tail here, we're going to pop it through this one here like that. Okay, and we're going to pass a few stitches through from front to back just to anchor that in place, keeping that tail out of the way. And I had a bit of a loop there with my thingy, so I'll just hide that, deny I ever saw it. So a few stitches back and forth to put that one wing inside the other, just to attach it nicely there like that, bringing it through in a few different places. And when you're happy yours is secure, you can hide that tail because we only need the one tail. So a few more passes for me and I'm done. You can stitch down a little lower as well if you want to. Of course, I'll leave that up to your discretion of how many stitches you feel you need to make sure that yours is secure. I'm going to hide that tail down there like that, so you don't need that one. Hallelujah, job done on that one. So now we've got one little wing that's made up of two little sections like that. Now we can add them in the crook there, which is what I plan to do. Okay, so let's grab a pin and see what that looks like. So I've gone for right behind the antennae there, okay, in a line more or less, so we can add them there. I think that looks kind of cute. So I'm just going to prepare the other pair of wings now and see how the two fit together. So I prepared my other set of two wings, and I'm going to pop another pin in there and see what that looks like. I think that looks really cute. I quite like the double wing effect. What do you think? Does that look alright? Yep, I kind of like that. I'm going to angle mine downwards slightly like that, I think, aiming towards the bottom corner of the bee. So that's where I'm going to stitch mine. So again, all we're going to do is to grab the tail, pop it on the darning needle and mattress stitch into place. I'll remove that one for now so it doesn't get in my way, and I am going to fix it in the little crook of the little neck we made there like that, and just grab it and stitch it. I'm going to stitch from the underneath like that. I can remove my pin. That's what I'm going to do, like that. I'm going to push down a little bit to get a good grip, and again I'm just going to stitch through the under layer of that wing like that. Okay, so I'm not going right through all the layers, just the under layer of the wing, holding it in place like that. Flip it over, down into the stuffing and back up, into the bottom layer of the wing so nothing shows through on the front, and it's not going to take much to stitch this into place because it's only a very small component of the bee, but adds so much, doesn't it? Pull that mattress stitch, flop that wing down and make sure I'm happy with it. Yep, that's looking pretty good. I like it. You can choose any other colour yarn for the wings, of course, if you wanted to do a pale lemon or something like that. It doesn't have to be white. You could do one wing if you prefer, but I quite like the two wings. I think it adds a little bit of dimension to our bee. I know it's a cartoon kind of bee. It's a rendition of a beautiful bee. And our bees are very, very important. So a little message: if you ever see a bee swarm, just call your local bee expert, okay? And they will come and they will safely remove that swarm. Okay, please don't do anything to destroy them because they are super duper important and they're just trying to find somewhere to live. Let's protect our beautiful bees. There we go. I'm happy with that, so I'm going to pop my yarn through there, my tail, and I'm going to chop that tail off, and now I'll attach the other one off camera, and I'm going to fluff those little wings up then like that, and there's our little bee wing done. So I'm going to attach the other one, and I'll be back very shortly, and we'll move on to the last part, which is going to be the facial details. And when you finish stitching on your wings, they should look a little bit like this. Okay, now you can flop one a little bit to the side and the other one back, so you can add a little bit of dimension to your bee with the double wing idea. I hope you like that. So let's move on to doing some facial features and making our little bee smile. So I'm going to map out with 3 pins where I want the smile to be. So there's my centre cinch with my little bit of a yellow. You won't get that because you're only going to be casting on with 1 row of ordinary plain yarn if you're going to be using this velvety yarn, okay? So you won't get that because I did 2 rows. So I'm going to go down about an inch to 2.5 centimetres roughly, and then I'm going to come up there and I'm going to come up there. So there we go. Grab my ruler and give you an idea. So we are about 3 centimetres down from the centre cinch there, and up at 45 degrees, 3.5 centimetres, 3.5 centimetres. Oh, that's good by eye, isn't it? Okay, so that's what we're going to do. I've got a length of black DK yarn on a darning needle. I'm going to come in from the right hand side there, and I'm going to come up on my first pin there or thereabouts. Okay, so I can remove that pin now. Leave a tail on the side there. Okay, then come down into your middle pin, down there, and up through your right hand pin, as close as you possibly can. There we go. That's fine. Now we can take those pins out. We don't need those now. So pull that through. And there's the first half of our smile. Now bring your needle back down to that centre loop there, centre hole rather, and back out to where you come from. Back at where you started. And there's our little bee smile. Now we can primp that little smile a little bit. Okay, like that. Great stuff. Now then, all we need to do is to tie these 2 together and hide the tails. And that's the mouth, the smiley mouth, done. Now the next step again is optional, but I'm going to do it because I quite like the idea of it. So bring that tail through there. And all through the same hole, by the way. And that tail through there. Exactly the same kind of smile as we did on the Smuggle Mug and the Roly Poly Pussycat. There we go, snip those off, and that's the smile done. Okay, so there's our little bee smile. He's a happy little chappy, or a happy little girl. Okay, so I'm going to grab a little bit of pink DK. I got a little offcut here from my stash. DK is handy for adding detail because it's not as thick as Aran yarn. So I'm going to grab a length of pink, and what we're going to do is we're going to add some pretty little cheeks. Now we don't have to do it, but if you want a little bit of extra detail you can. So again, we're going to come in from the right hand side and we're going to work out where we want our cheeks to be. So let's put some pins in and have an idea where we want our cheeks to be. So let's do some pink little cheeks, say there and there. And I'll grab another 2 pins and we'll put some more cheeks so we get an idea before we start where our cheeks are going to sit. And then we're not just sticking our needles in and pins in wherever we think they should go, which is the way I usually work. So let's have a little look where we are there. That might not be quite right. So from centre cinch to the first one is 4 centimetres, and we're about 2 centimetres apart. So that one needs to go over a little bit to 4 centimetres, and I'm running them parallel with the cinch. Okay, and then I was a little bit out on that one. So we are roughly 4 centimetres and 2 centimetres. Again, this one needs to go just a little bit. So that's where we're going to be putting our cheeks, where those 2 little blue pins are there. So again, we're going to come in from the right hand side for the right hand cheek and up through that pinhole there. Again, leaving a tail. Pull that one out. And I'm going to twist my bee so I can work against myself, and I'm going to come across straight like that. It's not quite straight, and then I'm going to come up slightly below it like that, not pulling too tightly, and then slightly below it again. But actually with this yarn I think I'm coming through more or less the same hole. I'm just trying to get 3 strands of yarn sitting underneath each other in a row like that. That's what we're aiming for, is that kind of 3 strands in a row. Okay, now I can go back through there because I was testing it. Come back through your original starting point and we do exactly the same thing. We tie off and hide the tails. And now do exactly the same the other side. And then our bee is absolutely 100% finished. Hide that tail. I love the way the knot gets pulled inside the stuffing and you don't even know it's there. Same hole every time. There we go. And it's gone. Little bit of tension and snip, little bit of tension and snip. Now I need to cut a new length of pink yarn for the other set of cheeks. And if you find you've got a little bit of a divot, pop your needle in like that and plump up that stuffing. Stick it down, plump, stick it down and plump. And that goes for any low areas that you might have in your stuffing as well. Okay, so I'm going to carry on now and do the other 3 stripes for the cheek. This time I'm coming in from the other side, obviously, leaving a tail. I'm just going to run 3 stitches close together, really close to the one before. But we'll see how it sits. You can always redo it if you're not happy. And do exactly the same thing, tie off and hide our tails. 2 little knots. And that's it. That's our bumblebee complete. So let's have a final little look at his cutie little face. Oh, that's cute. That's ever so cute. I'm going to even up my little cheeky stitches there. You'll probably do a much neater job than I'm doing here at the moment. I am tempted to put a few little stitches across his little nose there. What do you think? I might try it now and see how it goes. But if not, yours will be absolutely fine without that little yellow mark there caused by my first row of stitches. Right, let's see if that works then. One final little job for me. It may not be a final job for you because you may not have that little mark that I made in a slight error. So I'm going to go across with some matching yellow fuzzy yarn or velvet yarn. I'm going to leave a tail exactly the same, pop that out, and I'm going to give my little bee a little nose. Now whether bees have got noses or not, I'm not 100% sure. And I'm just going to bridge it like that across there like that and give him a little cutie little nose. Just a few passes. I might have to go up and then back down. Excuse my hands there. There we are, we're going to go down and then back down to the bottom for one more. There we go. Oh, I think that looks a little better than leaving that yellow bit. You may not have to do this because yours is going to look fine. I'm going to do a few passes to build up a little bit of a nosy effect. Like that. Yeah, I'm happy with that. That'll be absolutely fine. And I'm going to go back down there and out where I started from. Squishing my poor bee's face into all sorts of shapes. Tie off. And once again hide the tails. And for me now, my little bee is complete, 100% complete. Apart from staring at him and thinking, oh, he's so cute. Okay, snippety snip snips. Job done. Hallelujah. We have a bumblebee. So there we go, our little bumblebee nose. Let's even that out a little bit. You may not have to do that. I was just trying to fix a little bit of a faux pas on my casting on there, which if you remember from the beginning of the video, you'll see what I did. So just do a cast on row if you're using this velvet yarn. Do a cast on row in a different yarn because this yarn is very brittle and doesn't pull very well and could very well snap on you. So there's our bumblebee complete and done and finished. Isn't he cute, or she cute, with her beautiful little wings ready to fly off and get all that nectar from the beautiful summer flowers. I say summer, it's absolutely awful here in South Wales at the moment. We've had nothing but rain through June and most of July. But anyway, moving on. I hope you like this project. If you do, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, okay? Thumbsy up on the video. That really helps my channel. So does subscribing, which is absolutely free to do. And you can also join my Facebook group, Crafty Caz Collective. You'll find it, I'll put a little link on the screen somewhere for you here, and you can join that and share pictures of your makes with the whole group, and that'll be great. And if you do like this project, please, if you would like to give a small donation to a local no-kill animal shelter or rescue, that would be absolutely fabulous and a great gesture on your behalf. I will endeavour to try and write up a pattern for those that really do like the written pattern, and if I do, I will let you know, and it'll be in my little Etsy shop. Again, I'll put a little link there for you to see. And to give you an idea of the size of my bumblebee, he's approximately 16 inches long, which is 42 centimeters, about 42 centimeters. And he's approximately 8 inches wide, or 18 centimeters. And just to let you know, when I cinched the neck, I cinched the neck to approximately, let's have a look, because I forgot to tell you, didn't I? To about 16 and a half inches, which is, I give it to you in centimeters as well, so it helps. Approximately 41 centimeters on the cinch on the neck there. Okay? So there's your sizes. So thanks for spending time with me. It's been an absolute delight making this bumblebee, and I'll also try and get a 22-pin version out for you as well. So take care. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Look at that bumblebee. Zzz. Bye for now. Hwyl fawr. And the Welsh word for bee is gweninen.